All right, all right, all right. We live. Uh, I got a stranger, man. I ain't seen him in so long, man. Mr. Black Man taking our community back. Welcome to the Sub Zero 3639 channel. I really don't have a name like Brother Pill. It's just the Sub Zero 3639 channel, man. You know, I've been kind of going through this vein of discussion lately, and I think we really, me and a friend of mine, guy I call Michigan, really had a great conversation last night about what is consciousness, what is black nationalism, what is it, what does it represent, you know. And he really kind of hashed out a lot of issues. I let him do a lot of the talking because I respect his wisdom and stuff, you know. He's a few years older than me, but he's really been in you know, having this mindset longer than I have as far as understanding, you know, how black people operate within America and things like that. So, you know, I kind of let him lead the conversation for most part. I was interviewing him. You another brother that I respect greatly because of your discipline and because of your intelligence, man. So, uh, you know, for those of you guys that don't know, Mr. Black Man Taking Back Our Community has a channel. Me and him have had, I don't know, it's probably our fifth, sixth time having a hangout. Um, but me and him see eye to eye on damn near most things, you know. And I wanted to address in this video action versus rhetoric, hence the title. Now, we're living in the time or day and age of social media. So someone could come out, say something, uh, you know, say anything. And someone who has experience, someone who's out there in the streets taking action, because they may not have the same charismatic gift or speech that they have gift of speech that the other person has, a lot of times they get shut down. And they don't, you know, and black people, we're lazy. We don't do research. We'll listen to a video or watch a video. But that's sad because now it falls on the person who's speaking to, you know, basically out entertain the next individual. And if I don't entertain as well as the next individual, then it will be equated to logic and fact. And people will then shape their lives based on that. You know, one of the examples would be, you know, like I said, Ray Lewis, great example. You know, Ray Lewis has said some things that I personally disagree with as far as when he goes on to radio shows and, I mean, not radio, TV shows and stuff like that. But Ray Lewis has done a lot in the community, so much so that as I've done more and more research lately, I've gained a great level of respect for him. So, but that's where we are in this day and age. And Mr. Black, I want you to kind of chime in on that. How do you feel about that?
Oh man, I 100% agree. Like, I think about hold on, am I echoing?
No, you're not.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it just amazes me how how in the age of social media, black folks have gotten so caught up in symbolism over substance. How we value quote unquote activism or social media rebellion over real substantive action. And like how you were saying, how Ray Lewis, on one end, he's helping brothers get um, felonies expunged. He's helping brothers get jobs, doing the real meat and potatoes type of actions that are you know, from a social media standpoint or a social currency standpoint of being, generally overlooked because they're practical, because they're real. And, and it's being overlooked for stuff like Colin Kaepernick taking a knee that does nothing for anybody. Um, and how black people have kind of like somewhat attached ourselves to these symbolic gestures that have become the new uh, I guess black nationalism, or I guess in a sense sticking it to the man, but really it's just childish, petulant rebellion that does nothing. I don't get it, you know.
I think we've kind of seen this age-old discussion for years. Booker T. Washington comes to mind. And the reason Booker T. Washington comes to mind just from and that's why he's my avatar, people. I'm not Booker T. Washington. I don't consider myself a modern day Booker T. But what I'm saying is Booker T made the Atlanta Compromise speech in 1890. And they say that is particularly a time, I think it was 1890 something, I don't know. But that was the time where we went from the 19th to the 20th century, because they say that speech changed everything, especially for blacks. People were in the crowd, literally got up and walked out or walked away when he gave that speech, because people were saying, just like today, pissed about the situation, and they left. And I understood why. This is the thing. I'm not saying that. Look, if I heard that, it sounded bad. And wait, for those of you that don't know, I'm gonna say it again. Booker T basically said that black people should not ascribe to be involved in government or involved in politics. More so, we should focus on, agriculture and trades. Pretty much, in a nutshell, that's what he said. And black people were like, "You coon, you Uncle Tom, you Sambo," But I've heard not what's his name, John Henry Clark. John Henry Clark said, had we listened to him, we would be further along than we are today. I've always said, throughout my time on this channel, that integration was probably the worst thing to happen to black people. For opinion, I base that on, the poverty rate had already risen, just certain things that was already changing. The black wealth gap, the wealth gap in the 60s was actually lower than it is today. And, over a 40-year gap, like, I can, there are different. So it's different demographic information you can bring to bring this home to be true. But, you don't even have to do that. All you got to do is look at sports. I mean, in the 40s and 50s and 60s, black teams could go out on the field, like a Tuskegee could go out and beat a Duke University's basketball team, hands down. Tuskegee could probably go out there and beat Alabama State. I mean, not Alabama State, all these big major colleges. But now it's changed. It's not like that. So that is what happened economically as well. The best and brightest of our community, right now they don't live around black people. Doctors, engineers, lawyers, they don't. Our, when you come to the most intelligent individuals, they work within white organizations. I work in corporate America, and I see some of the most intelligent black people. These aren't people that, if we were still under segregation, would be working within these white organizations. They wouldn't. So so I think that Booker T. Washington had a point in what he said, but Booker T. Washington to this day is still labeled a coon. Think about that. You still have people, type that into YouTube. You got a few videos of people calling Booker T. Washington a coon for saying what he said. And, I think Jason Black had a video some years back where he talked about, we're in the age where dumb people, I ain't gonna say dumb, because the thing, and let me say this about intelligence. You can be intelligent and wrong. I'm not so rigid. Like, you can be intelligent because if it was all just based on intelligence, if intelligence was just based on being right, then everybody that's smart would be a millionaire. That does, like, if you're smart, everything you do will succeed because you got all the answers and you're right. Being smart does not mean that you're gonna always be right. It doesn't. Being smart, you can be smart and wrong. There are different opposing views on both sides of the aisle. I will admit that there are people that are very intelligent that disagree with what I'm saying. I'm not like that. So hold on, Mr. Black. Go ahead and talk for a second. I have to let somebody in. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of it is, it's kind of like today, you find like a lot of black people, they kind of virtue signal a lot of this, I guess, quote unquote racist talking points, and we get caught up in you know, all of this white supremacy arguments, and you know how safe spaces and all of these weak liberal you know, talking points, but at the same time, these same blacks tend to want to be, you know, ingratiated amongst the, you know, in the whitest communities. They don't want to they don't want to live around black folk. You know, these same people who, you know, cry all of these you know, the white man is trying to take me down and all this kind of stuff. These are the same people that don't want to live nowhere close to black folk. You know, and the same people who want to, you know, get excited about taking knees and, you know, all of this symbolism, all of this symbolism that doesn't mean anything. You know, it's just ridiculous. And then when you add into the fact that, you know, people like Booker T. Washington was talking about implementing practical ideas, things that would really move a people forward, and give value to a people, you know, we rejected it wholesale. And you know,
Exactly.
that to me is just sickening. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, you know, life is about progression. It's about passing something down for the next generation. You know, it's about thinking intergenerationally. But it seems that, you know, we tend to, when it comes to a lot of the practical things, we try to, you know, we shun the practical ideas for the emotional displays of faux outrage. I just don't get it.
No, I think emotionalism has taken the place of logic. I think it has. I think you have to, when it comes to the black community, we're very emotion driven. We have high testosterone levels, but I'm not going to give that as an excuse. I think we really sometimes refuse to hear reason. And I think primarily, I gave a definition of groupthink on my last video, the video before last, but that definition requires that you shut down critical thinking, that you can be given new information under groupthink, and literally you close your mind to it. You don't even, I could show you that something doesn't make sense, and you shut your mind to it. I mean, look at the black people with the Democrats. I mean, you can show black people all day that Democrats aren't the best option for them. Not to say that Republicans are either, but you can show black people where the Democrat Party has shafted African Americans for the last 50 years, and they don't respect our vote, and they just play on our emotionalism. And black people vote in groves, and they don't see any other logic outside of that. When black people, I know people, I can sit them down and show them, hey, do you believe in small government? Do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? And they'll say yes for all of the conservative value points. Then you'll say, well, why aren't you voting from that point of view? And they'll say, well, they'll just come back with, well, they're racist. I'm like, well, their hearts don't have anything to do with it.
Exactly. It's the craziest thing. And then, you know, you look at people like Roland Martin. You know, he always talking about, you know, white supremacy this and all of this kind of stuff. But I can bet you my bottom dollar that Roland Martin don't live nowhere close to black folk. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the irony of it all. Like, and probably don't want to live nowhere close to black folk. I'm not sure about that, but I can almost guarantee that, you know, he lives in some white suburb, and his kids go to some white school, and he's completely fine with that. But it's like when you listen to the rhetoric, you hear the exact opposite. And it's not just him. It's like a lot of these um, um, you know, I guess white supremacy and all of these kind of folk, a lot of them, they don't live around black folk. You know, it's just so ironic. You know.
Yeah, I got a little. I'm a little busy. So yeah,
Oh, you
man,
got the little one with you. You got the
he
little one
just
with
got
you.
home, man. I thought I had a little bit more time.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
just
It's no
about to
biggie.
jump home in a second. I'm sure he probably wanted to add some things to the conversation,
Who?
but I'm Edward Anderson.
Oh, okay.
He sent
Okay.
me
Sure.
but like I say, man, I think you're right. I think Roland Martin is a great example. You sent me a video the other day where Roland Martin was speaking with a guy who was having an event with this guy who was with the Trump administration. But the guy was talking about all the connections that the guy has and how he helps black people get into business. And this guy's main argument was, well, Trump is racist. That was Roland Martin's whole viewpoint. That was his whole argument. And they were snickering and laughing. And one of the guys on the panel claimed to be a conservative. I was like, look, I don't care about your policies and I don't care about your policy and your whole, your party allegiance more so than can you help us get the benefits? You're not selling out. It's not like they're asking you to wear a monkey suit and eat bananas. That's when I draw the line there too. Certain times, look, let me say this: in certain times and instances, there should be lines drawn when black people are asked to do things that are belittling to them or to step on their own dignity and deny their own humanity. Then yeah, by all means do that. But I don't think inviting a guy from a certain Republican administration to speak who's probably at a conference that probably helps you with business and look, if you can help me get there, I don't care if you work with Trump. I really don't. There were people in the, if somebody came from the Obama administration and spoke, his administration was full of people that were silent when people were getting shot. I'm not saying I'm not telling you to go be a Republican by no stretch. But what I am saying is we shouldn't have any loyalty. And I saw a video the other day where a guy said that you're a coon if you don't vote. Like that's where we are now. Like Dr. Claude Anderson's a coon today. Like that's where we are. Dr. Claude Anderson, one of the greatest economic minds I've ever seen.
Yeah, this word "coon," man. I can't stand the word because it's become the new term to shut down arguments. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I don't agree with you, then you're a coon. Or if I can't necessarily debunk what you're talking about, you're a coon. Or if you come with any practical, especially anybody practical, that has practical solutions, you're automatically a coon. If you're not ascribing to this emotionalism, this emotional escapism, and all of these, over the top, childish, toddler like um, um, uh, behavior when it comes to just dealing with injustice and things of this nature, then you're a coon. And the crazy thing is, I don't even see how any of this stuff benefits black people. I really, really don't. That's what really, really
Look at
troubles
it
me.
this way. Look at it this way. It's more so, I think it started from, if I disagree with you, you're stupid. I think that is the first, it starts right there. Black people, a lot of times, if someone disagrees with them, they're an idiot, just off the top. I mean, doesn't mean, that's not just black people. I'm gonna say, a lot of people do that. But in the black community, if you disagree, even if you come with some sort of logic, some sort of facts, you're still considered an idiot. It's just off the top. I mean, look at social media. People make points on social media, and you may come. I had a friend of mine that put something up about Egypt and Christianity, and I've sent him an IM, and I said, look, man, you might want to Google that because that source that you gave was, has been proven to be this and that. Gave him links to university websites with facts, and he called me an idiot.
Wow.
You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like it's just, that's the facts. That's the way. That's where we are right now.
Yeah.
So it's just really sad. It's really sad in this day and age that real factual information is taken to a point where it's been shrunk down into just meaning nothing.
Yeah, it's like intellectual laziness. You know what I mean? It's just intellectual laziness. Nobody want to do the work to find out the facts, and nobody really wants to bore themselves with the facts these days. It's more about how I feel. We're in a how I feel culture, and and sad to say, I think black folks are kind of leading the charge in the how I feel culture. Um, you know, um, and that to me just, I don't know, I just don't see how that leads to generational wealth. I don't see how that leads to making any dent in the wealth gap. I don't see how that helps us transition into a new place in this country. I just don't see it, you know.
And I can agree with you, man. I mean, I think the culture's kind of taking that turn for the worse. And like I said last night, I think all we understand is pain. I think it's just going to take a level of pain for Black people to really shake out of it. You know, right now we're comfortable. You got all these government programs. You have all these different YouTubers, and you got these dissenting thoughts. And, you know, eventually, you know, you'll come to your senses. But at first, it's like we're drunk on certain things. That's just how it is right now. You know, it's like the prodigal son. We've gotten away from certain things in the past that we used to adhere to, certain principles. Hard work creates character. Certain, you know, I had a guy tell me one time that you know, why would you take a job from Ray Lewis if it's a $7 an hour, $8 an hour job? I'm like, so you don't have any trades, any skills, but now you got to make $60,000 a year. Why would a businessman, if I own a business, why would I give you 60,000 off the street with no trades? You haven't went to school, you haven't tried to better yourself, get any type of trade or talent, but I'm supposed to give you 60. I'm supposed to give you $1,000 every Friday, just because. And why? Because you want it? Like, what? You know, in business, a lot of times you have to ask people what type of value do you add to a business? But we've never had the ownership. We don't own anything, so we can't relate to that. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, and that's where we at. You know what I mean? That's ultimately where we at, man. And it's sad, but you know, hopefully, man. That's why. To be honest with you, man, that's why you don't even really see me on YouTube too much, man. It's almost like I've kind of said my piece, and I'm kind of like, man, these people don't really want tangible change, man. It's like it's more about, you know, the entertainment factor and the shock value, and emotionalism, you know, and that's what I've kind of noticed. But you know, I haven't given up. You know, I still want to put forth, you know, content, but at the same time, it's
I
just
think you
real.
should, man. I think you should. I think you have a talent and a gift. I think you should put forth your argument, put forth your premise. That's what I'm doing. I'm not gonna give up. This is not gonna sidetrack me. I do videos on the side. Gotta excuse my son, but I do videos on the side. But at the same time, I'm still going to obtain my goals. But I may take 10 minutes, 15, or maybe an hour at 10:30, 11 o'clock, put a video out because somebody's listening. I got a few people in the comment section. Shout out to everybody. I'm in a rush right now. I can't open up the comment section of this video because I'm about to end this video in a second. But I just wanted to get on here and address substance versus action. And I'm trying to drill this home. I started with Colin Kaepernick about the statues in Charlottesville, Virginia, and how statue in no way creates wealth. In no way are you going to be able to go borrow money. Or if Colin Kaepernick, they let him, they still own the team. People are still in their positions. I admonish everyone that listened to this video here to go listen to the last video last night about what is real true nationalism. What does that mean? You know, because we think Black nationalism or consciousness has to do with your ideology, your knowledge. It doesn't. It has to do with your action. And like my partner said last night, Michigan, he said, I can only see your consciousness by what you do, not by what you say. It's the same thing with anything. The Bible says faith without works is dead. You can say you believe something, look in the mirror, you're like a man who looks in the mirror and then turns and forgets what he looks like. You are conscious. If you really are, you know, into this level of trying to really build and have something, have a mindset of that, you know, of trying to, you know, going and taking action and not necessarily. That's what I sound like a broken record. I say take action, take action, take action. I sound like, you know, like Pac-Man, you know. I'm just just going, gobbling it up, but I have to keep drilling that point home because that is the most important thing right now. Not stand with Kaepernick. Like there are plenty of people I see on Facebook, has changed their profile picture or they putting up or things like that. In the long run, you're still in the same place Monday morning. You got to go punch that clock for that white man.
Exactly.
You still,
nothing has changed.
Yeah, like you're still, you can say the black man is God or whatever, but at the end of the day, if God is a creator, if I'm not mistaken, whatever, most people, 90% of people think he's at least a creator. So the job, and you cool with me. You can think whatever you want to think. If you create, can you do that? If you can't create a job, if you can't create something, even if you can't just get some life insurance, something that will allow your children and your family to say, okay, but he moved us forward. And one thing about life insurance, I'm gonna say this: there are rules that go with money. I've made money. I flipped houses, made 600,000 in the year 2006. I'm gonna tell you like this: money. And if you don't have those rules in place, if you don't understand those principles, leave you 300,000, a million, you'll be broke, man, quick. I see it time and time again. If you don't understand those principles, you will be stuck and broke. So one of my favorite books is The Richest Man in Babylon. Look, man, wealth should be the centerpiece of every black person's consciousness, right? That should be what we're talking about. How about you? What do you think, Mr. Black?
Exactly. To me, wealth is activism. Jobs, business creation, that's activism. Like all of this taking a knee, all of this symbolism, all this, I want to call everybody a coon. That is not activism. That to me is not moving anybody forward. I want to attack coons. It's just silly talk, man. You know what I mean? All this, I want to be triggered by everything. That to me is not activism. Activism to me is job creation. It's it's wealth building. It's um, generational legacies being created, and that's it. You know what I mean? If you ain't talking about that, it's like I really don't see the point in your activism.
Hey, what's up, Mr. Anderson, man? I see you finally made it. I'm gonna have to cut this video short. My little man is here, but I'm gonna give you some minutes to talk, man. I'm gonna try not to be rude and just scat out. But go ahead.
No, I was just, I was jumping in and out. I mean, that kind of works out for me too. But what up, Mr. Black?
What's going on, man?
What I would say, nothing much. What I would say is activism. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't call like building businesses activism. I mean, that's just the matter of the pursuit of power that a group is supposed to do anyway. Where the activism comes in my opinion, is a lot of it has to do with propaganda and like the narrative. Because a lot of when you look at how people think and how they operate within a group, within a collective society, oftentimes it's not always the facts and the factual information that wins out. What it does is it's like the battle of hearts and minds, and that's when facts don't really matter as much. It's where it's just a matter of convincing people and how people want to feel when they do certain things. Like for instance, Muslims, for example, like Muslim leaders, when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, death to America is always the go-to to take the mindset off of what they're not doing right and focus on an outside threat. Racism has that same purpose on an economic sense in America. So whenever you want to take money from poor whites, you use racism or the threat of the non-white person as a way to get the poor whites to coalesce around the rich whites, where the rich whites benefit exponentially at the expense of poor whites. Now, the poor whites still operate value based on their whiteness, but outside of that, the class thing comes into play. So when we talk about why people do activism, a lot of it has a lot to do with dialogue. But the problem is, and this is where you know, me and Sub Zero came into a lot of agreement, is in there's certain people, in my opinion, that has a right to speak on a platform, and certain people that don't. Is it true that a lot of these hotep people are using the term coon and certain terms that were not used for that as a way to drive their own agenda? Like a lot of hoteps want to replace the black church for the battle of hearts and minds for black people. The answer is yes, that is very true. And a lot of them, if they're not, my question that I will always ask anybody that is a quote unquote hotep or conscious, I consider those two different things. But a hotep person, like a brother polite, is what are you building? What is your infrastructure? And if you don't have an answer to that, then I would kind of say thank you and shut the fuck up. Come back to me when you have a business and you've hired 2 or 3 black people. Next person. So just like when Jesus Christ said is with he without a he said he without sin is can cast the first stone. That's how we need to be with business. If you don't have actual business shit on the ground, then you don't have a right to speak just because you got the gift of gab. And that will eliminate a lot of this bullshit, right? Because what it yeah, go ahead.
No, you good, man. That's actually you, man. I just dialed in on my phone because my laptop, I'm gonna have to shut it down because I'm about to leave. But I want
Okay.
to try to stretch it out a
Okay.
little bit, so I'm pulling it down. But you can go ahead. I had an echo, but
Yeah.
I got rid of it.
Well, the last thing I'm gonna say is we can solve a lot of problems if we just focus on who's building, because that way we know who has skin in the game. And this is true for a lot of fake black conservatives, because I consider I consider Anthony Brian Logan a fake black conservative masquerading as a conservative. He's an assimilationist masquerading as a conservative, and he type people like him give black conservatives a bad name. Now Jason Black is a real black conservative, and he talks about building all the time, but he also talks about white supremacy, and he also not afraid to call somebody a coon. Now I will say this, that people use the term coon way too liberally, and a lot of people are labeling people coons that are not coons, and that needs to stop.
Yeah,
That
that
that that's where I am, man. I mean, I've been called a coon, and I would like to think I've tried to build a network or a channel that is basically centered around black economic empowerment. If you about black, look, there was a hangout last night with BGS and what's his face? City of Truth was on there, and the guy said these black economic empowerment people are crazy, or stupid, or ignorant. And my thing is this: look at what you're saying. You're saying basically, it sounds like to me you're saying the possibility of black people becoming economically empowered is stupid. Like, maybe he worded it different, or worded it. Maybe he should have used a different word,
Zero.
but that was
That's the same thing when
good.
people say that I'm not pro-black. Like they don't understand that pro-black was an economically empowerment term. But when people and here's the thing that I always ask people. I forget who I asked, but I said, how many pro-blacks do you know that are not on YouTube? And I can't tell you how many idiots will actually tell me none. So I said, so you don't even know anybody that's pro-black outside what you've seen on YouTube, but you think you know what pro-black is. And you'd be amazed how many people will willingly say, no, I'm talking about YouTube. YouTube niggas on YouTube don't count. The fuck you talking about? Like that's just a platform. But you're giving these people on YouTube a lot more credit than I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in general. Like you'll be amazed when they say pro-black. Even Jada Black does this, and I'm not trying to put names out because Jada Black has a really good channel. But he'll say, "Oh well, these fucking pro-blacks," and I'm like, pro-black meant pro-black business. It changed because niggas on YouTube don't know nothing and they want to act like they know something. So a lot of people are not really well read enough to even have an opinion, and that's a big problem. Is the audience as well as people that are taking advantage of the audience. It's the same thing that you said with how a lot of people don't read the Bible and they're able to be easily manipulated. That's how it is with this stuff. A lot I got
You breaking up, man. We're not hearing you that good.
I gotta bounce out, but it's been much appreciated. We need to do this again because I think this can go a lot deeper than it, Yeah, but I just want to stop by.
Definitely. Yeah, I got to head out too. But yeah, man. Yeah, it was a pleasure, man. It was definitely a pleasure, and I definitely we definitely gotta dig deeper on this topic.